Hello. I'm going to add 4 more bullet points. Now, when I feel that they're sufficiently done, which I think will happen soon, I'll uh, I'll list them all. I'm going to put them up on a special wiki I've been building. I've not been drinking. It is late. I've been working, but I have these 4 more, 4 more bullet points, and these are old ones actually that I've borrowed from an old list of mine. Um, Firstly, on atomism, firstly tonight, the impossibility of any sort of atomism is due to the fact, for me, within relativistic skepticism, that to break something into parts is really just a matter of creating a more complex system to describe it. All right. A more complex system to describe it, right? So with material atomism, it's possible to say, oh, yeah, there's atoms, electrons are atomic little things. When you break them up, they turn into energy. That's not matter. That doesn't make much sense. That's sort of arbitrary. So we generally say that no, energy is matter. All matter is made of energy. And we get down to these supposedly discrete amounts of energy, the smallest amount of energy that you can have in quantum theory. But see, this is a description, and the description has parts, you see, because a quark, though a lot of people think a quark is going to be the new atom, and it might be in a material sense the smallest thing you want to call material, because maybe you don't want to call its properties material. But it has properties, and it breaks down into those properties, because you can always break something down into properties, because that's just saying you can always create a more complex system to try to describe what you're trying to describe. And we call these descriptions explanations, but really they're always just descriptions. There's always some part that isn't explained. In that sense, they're never fully explanations. So I'm not an atomist. I do not believe we'll ever stop breaking things down into parts or stop finding fruitful questions to answer. And that's really the question of atomism. To believe in atomism is to believe that, at least in some area, we will stop getting fruitful questions. Now, the next thing has been really most often denied. It's been denied that it's denied. It seems obvious not to deny it, but animals are alive. They have emotions, they feel pain, uh, they have will. In fact, everything that has a will is alive, and everything that is alive has will, and will is what it means to be alive, to have some sort of will. Now, some people want to say, oh, well, these lower life forms, they're not really alive, or maybe they're alive, but they're not really willing, or they're willing, but it doesn't really count because it's not conscious. But conscious willing can't be the criteria, because human willing is hardly all conscious, or indeed, you can't prove any of it's really conscious. The only part we're sure is conscious is the justification of the will, the explanations that we give for why we've done something. That seems to be conscious and define maybe even what consciousness is. But there's a strong urge to deny that animals are alive, to misunderstand and misrepresent history and what mankind has thought throughout time. But it is certainly true that we share with animals many of the things we think are so special to humans. Certainly, all the emotions and the subtle, both beautiful and ugly emotions, we share those with animals. Animals are alive. And the third point in this section of 4 points is this video is that I would say that on conformity, if you can free yourself as much as possible from the urge to conform, uh, then to that same degree that you succeed, you will succeed in apprehending philosophy and understanding what philosophy is all about. Even if you have a philosophy that seeks to make conformists out of other people, you yourself have to find the path. You have to break the way through the jungle, and you yourself will understand the need for nonconformity. even if you see it as temporary, only for great people that lead these revolutions in thought. Me being a skeptic, I believe that it's a continual thing, freeing yourself from conformity. I believe the individual is something that is being invented now and recently. That societies and large societies are not the enemy of the individual, but the precursor and the requirement for the individual. That for the individual to roam requires such a delicate balance that you're only going to get this in some sort of environment that has been very much protected, some womb-like environment like a human society. So there's an irony there that this is what provokes our individuality, having these freedoms that are provided by a society. The foundation of a society providing this infrastructure and this survival is what leads to individuality. And then we can, in fact, grab the individuality and make it fundamental. I believe we should do that. But remember, it's something we're inventing, something wonderful we're inventing, like great infrastructure that helps people survive. We're inventing the concept of the individual, which also we hope will help people survive in a way that is most palatable to human beings. And finally, I would like to say, as bullet point number 4, that I see no conflict in being materialist and mystical. In fact, I see that these go hand in hand because I believe the one has measure and the other the unmeasured. And the unmeasured includes all of these things that are potential but have not yet been measured, and those things which are actual and cannot be measured. And to the degree that we don't know which is which, we fuse materialism and mysticism. We fuse the explanations that we have, which are mundane and of the world, with those which can't be mundane or can't seem mundane because we don't have an explanation for them that fits with this measured world. In the mystical, we remember all the stray facts, the bits that go in patterns, but not yet, that we can't put in a pattern yet. And we follow these mystical ideas as we sense patterns sort of forming and coalescing, and often patterns that we've just made up in our heads and don't really serve as anything other than a step to the next theorem. And in mysticism, these things come and go in a very disordered way, in an intuitive way where, creative inspiration is important. And I think that through that process, these ideas which may be mystical at some stage become material at another. And what may have been material becomes mystical. What was material and seemed a dull explanation, very mundane, turned into a more exciting, strange, sublime, surreal explanation with relativity and quantum mechanics, and I would say became more mystical. And so this goes back and forth between these two poles. Not that I'm setting them up as fundamental, as a fundamental dichotomy, but they are two ways of approaching our experiences that overlap and also focus on sort of different areas: the eminently knowable versus the somewhat or fundamentally unknowable, the practical unknowable, or the, in essence, unknowable. Cheers.